welcome everybody. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you may happen to be in the world. I am. There we go. Maybe I'm not on mute now. Maybe jump in and let me know if I'm okay. We okay, Mike? We okay with the mic? Probably broadcasting live now, guys. Great. Okay, all good, very good. Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Welcome to 2026. I am Andrew Scott from IAG, and welcome to a new year of IAG Live. And yes, I've gone for the outdoors look at the moment. I'm in my backyard in Melbourne at the moment, down in Australia. It is 37 degrees Celsius, which is 99 degrees Fahrenheit. So I've got the hat on to keep the sun off. Always good to do in Australia with the intense sun we have down here. And yeah, another year of IAG, another year of IAG Live. So as always, let's bring in our intrepid studio producer, Oscar Guiaro. Oscar, a new year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, and you're in the office there, I see.
Yeah. Here we are.
I heard
chill.
It's cold in Macau.
Macau chill. You see, 3 layers. So it's really cold.
It's not chilled here. I don't know if I'm going to be able to survive out in this warm weather, but I thought it'd be nice to be outside, something different for a change for IAG Live. Looking forward to a big year, Oscar.
Yeah. All good.
You don't sound very enthusiastic.
Sorry, I cannot hear it at the moment.
Oh, I said you don't sound very enthusiastic.
I do. I am enthusiastic, of course. Let's go.
Very good. All right. Very good, Oscar.
I have so many things here that I was said. Okay, see you. Bye.
Okay, no worries. All right. See you, Oscar. And again, to help me out with IAG Live, we have our managing editor, Mr. Ben Blaschke. Come on in, Ben.
Hey, Andrew. Good to see you've taken a break from mustering sheep to sit down and do IAG Live today.
Well, it's good to see you. Obviously, were gifted a shirt with a collar for Christmas. That's great to see.
Only the best for IAG.
Oh, very good. Well, you're looking very good. Now, it is stinking hot down here, which is why I've got the hat on to keep the sun off. If it gets just a little bit unbearable, I will ask you to cover for me while I dash inside into the cooler climes of the house. But I thought it'd be kind of nice to do outside with the sun and the backyard in the background. So let's go for that and see if I can last through the whole IAG Live.
Yeah, well, 37, Andrew. It's 33 in Sydney. It's going to be 42 tomorrow. So certainly the heat wave is sweeping through our states at the moment.
Well, it was 42 on was it Monday? No, Wednesday. Wednesday it was 42 here, which for those that think in Fahrenheit is, well, I know 38's 100, so 42 is another 4, so maybe another 7 or something. Yes, what's that? 107. So stinking hot. Yes, and there we go. Comment from Scott Andrew Dundee. I think, yes, Crocodile Dundee, for those of you who are old enough to remember. It's quite a while ago now that Paul Hogan did those movies, wasn't it, Ben?
Yeah, I was watching one the other day, actually. Still classics.
Very good, very good. Even my computer, even my laptop, I've just put my hand on it and it's burning hot just from being out in the sun here. All right, well, we're going to have a bit of a different IAG Live as the year rolls on. I mean, I think this one will be fairly similar to previous years, but we're going to ramp up IAG Live this year. We're going to have some guests join us on IAG Live, and we're going to be doing IAG Live perhaps a little bit more often, and perhaps a little shorter one sometimes too. Our Friday one will be a longer sort of end of week wrap up, but we might jump on and do some shorter ones when certain news breaks to give our opinion and analysis and thoughts on stories. That's something that we've discussed in the past, and we're going to do it in 2026. What do you think about that, Ben?
Yeah, looking forward to it, Andrew. I know we won't give away any surprises, but we've got a few people lined up and very special guests lined up for a few weeks' time from now as well. We'll keep that as a surprise, but yeah, I look forward to getting some very interesting people on to give their take.
Yeah, it'll be great. And yeah, the industry is super interesting at the moment, as it always seems to be. The last few years, it's been very interesting. And even now, it's only January. What is it today? January 9, and some interesting things have happened already. So let's get into the news since our break. So December 19 was our last date. Most of our viewers will know that traditionally IAG takes a well-earned break for a couple of weeks from December 19, comes back usually the first Monday in January, which we did, which was Monday this week. It's now Friday. And so we've got a bit of news to get through over the break. We did do a few stories over the break, not many, but some important stories over the break, and then also the news of this week as well. So let's get into it. So what's the first one we've got queued up there, Oscar? Yeah, well, this happened actually on December 19 after we had done our last breakfast briefing. I wonder if MGM waited for us to do the last breakfast briefing for the year before they announced this. But very interesting. On December 19, Hubert Wang departing MGM China. Hubert, a good friend of IAG's, lovely man. And who knows where he will turn up. I'm sure he'll turn up somewhere or other in the industry. And Kenny Feng, another good friend of IAG's, promoted from to CEO to run. There's Kenny at the industry party last year. Wow, look at all those signatures. That was a big party, wasn't it? The industry party. There you go, 5th of June 2024. It was actually the year before. We had even more people there in 2025, and we'll be having that again in 2026 on the 13th of May. So fill in your diaries. But anyway, interesting move from MGM China, Ben.
Yeah, I think a great reward for Kenny, of course. We know that, and we've written extensively about the fact that MGM has had a terrific couple of years post-COVID. Really bolstered their offering, grown substantially. The market share has gone from below 10% to 15, 16% in the Macau market. So, they've really punched above their weight, MGM, with a great offering there. So, as I said, I think that's a terrific promotion for Kenny. Well deserved.
Yeah, I think so too. And Kenny, I meet Kenny from time to time, and sometimes we have. It's not unusual for us to have a breakfast every few months or so at 8 a.m. in the coast on a Friday. We'll catch up and talk industry. And Kenny's very passionate about MGM, very passionate about the industry and what they've done there and the changes that they've made to both properties, the Cotai property and the Macau property, the physical changes they've made, but not just the physical changes, the change in approach that they have made towards players and player marketing and marketing the property. They serve some sort of natural challenges. MGM, not so many hotel rooms compared to the other properties, and some other issues as well, and they've been able to work through those. And also a great reward for Tian as well. Tian promoted to COO of the whole property, so congratulations to Tian too.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Andrew, I mean, obviously the gaming floors at both properties have been revamped. MGM have done a lot of work on their suite product. We know what they've done customer-facing wise. They're very quick out of the blocks post-COVID. They put a lot of focus into the customer experience. So yeah, look, that's really paid off for them. I think they caught a lot of their Macau peers perhaps off guard a little bit straight out of COVID. But as I said,
yeah. Was interesting during COVID, wasn't it? You could see who used the time well and who used the time not so well. And I know in speaking to some of the guys at MGM, I mean, every day during COVID, they were planning. They knew that this would end at some point, and they were planning, and they were thinking about what they were going to do, and they put a lot of energy into that. And then they hit the ground running, didn't they, in 2023? So, very good. And then we see there a comment from Scott. Poly MGM Museum is fantastic, as is Macau 2049. China, couldn't agree more. Both of those are fantastic things that they've done for MGM. Really got the place rolling. So anyway, let's see where Hubert resurfaces at some stage. I'm not sure if he's got gardening. I'm assuming he'll have some gardening leave to go through, or maybe not. I don't know. And then we'll see where he turns up, and we'll see how MGM continues to roll out through 2026. But as you say, early post-COVID, there was a lot of talk of, it was a lucky quarter or a lucky 2 quarters. Well, no one's saying that anymore with MGM. They're doing a sterling job, and there was a little bit of argy-bargy, as Australians might like to say, between Melco and MGM, wasn't there? And some of the earnings calls, and I think even Bill Hornbuckle coming out and saying, "Well, look at our bottom line. You know, what's not to like."
Exactly. Yes, it's always good to see a little bit of friction. It gives us something to write about, Andrew.
It does, and it's a natural consequence of competition. I think ultimately the 6 concessionaires in Macau are in an uber competitive state, but they're also willing to work together when it suits them to do so. So that's important too. All right, let's move on. What's the next one, Oscar? Yeah, well, this was interesting over the break, wasn't it? We saw the satellites closing down, and SGM. I mean, ultimately, only Lark was the only satellite that stayed on, and it didn't stay on as a satellite, of course, because legally it couldn't. And SJM acquired the Lark operations from 2 a.m. on 30th of December. I think if you scroll down, Oscar, we've got a nice picture there, perhaps of the maybe Daisy Ho. Do we? Oh no, we don't. That was somewhere else. I saw that picture. Anyway. Lark was the only one that stayed on. Great location, opposite Wynn there, and near Star World, and near Sampol Geng, Grand Lisboa. And perhaps we'll go straight to the next story, Oscar, because they're related and we can commentate together the two stories. I think the next story was the closing of Landmark. Yeah, Oscar, next story. Oscar? Yeah, there it is. There was the closing of Landmark and Pierce. Went down there at, when was it? It was midnight on the 30th, turning into the 31st, was it, I think, Ben?
That's right, yeah. As we've written, there were 11 satellite casinos at the start of 2025. Obviously, the government came out and officially declared mid-year that they would all be required to close, if not wholly acquired by an existing concessionaire, by the end of the year. So gradually throughout the year, we saw the satellites start to close down. SGM, as Andrew said before, acquired Lark, and then Landmark was the last satellite to close just before the 31st, or on the eve of the 31st of December. Landmark closed down. So no more satellites in Macau, Andrew. End of an era.
Yes, the end of an era has been kicking around longer than I've been in Macau, that's for sure. It's been since the 90s at least, I think. Definitely the 90s. I don't know if it was a phenomenon or not in the 80s. That's before my time, but in before my time in Macau anyway. But yeah, it's certainly been kicking around since the 90s, the concept of satellites. And so I'm kind of sad to see them go in some ways. They represented a different kind of gaming. A lot of it around our area where our office is, around that area, sort of around where Fortuna, the old part of Macau, a lot of properties there closed down. And what will become of those properties now? I guess they'll just become hotels or be repurposed in some way or another, but the value of those properties obviously goes down substantially now that there's no gaming operation associated with them. But I guess this is progress. This is the sort of formalization of the regulation of the gaming industry in Macau, and Macau's becoming a better regulated industry. And I think satellites were a bit of a vestige of times gone by in the past, keeping certain parties happy. And I think that, the requirement to keep those parties happy was perhaps not in place anymore. And now we just have 20 casinos in Macau, down from the peak of 42. The wind's picking up here. Whoa, there we go. It's really picking up. Hope you can still hear me okay, Ben. Can hear me? Yep. Okay. I was reliably informed there's a cool front coming through, which will be great when it does come through. The temperature will probably drop 20 degrees Celsius, which is something like 30 degrees Fahrenheit when it comes through. But yeah, look, it was a vestige of the past, and now we've got 20 casinos all owned by those 6 concessionaires. So oversight from a regulatory point of view is better. And I think this is, now we've got a new Macau gaming law, a new junket law, and now we've got no satellites. So the regulation of the industry is a lot cleaner, I guess you would say.
Yeah, that's right, Andrew. I mean, as you said, a little over 20 years ago, we saw the first step sort of out of, let's call it the STDM era, into the concessionaire era. And this is obviously the next step in just tidying up some loose ends, I guess, from the first phase. So, satellites are part of that. Junkets were part of that. So, we're seeing a much more, I don't know if I should use the word cleaner, but we're seeing a much more well-regulated. We've got obviously the Macau government has a vision as for how they see Macau growing into the future. I've spoken a lot about the non-gaming initiatives that they're pushing, but also, closing these vestiges of the past.
Should we call it the Vegasification of Macau, maybe? I mean, in some respects it is.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
I mean, Vegas went through this too, didn't it? I mean, it went through a stage where it was very gaming, and there were perhaps some less than savory characters connected with the industry. And then as time went on, it became sort of more regulated, more formalized, more suit and tie, less gaming, more tourism, more non-gaming. And I guess, we're starting to see that happening in Macau to an extent, not nearly to the extent that it's happened in Vegas yet, but you could imagine that that would happen as time goes on. All right, next one, Oscar. Yeah, so this was interesting. The final number for December came in at whatever it came in at to make the final, no, a little bit less than expected, to make the final result 30.9 billion. What's 100 million US between friends? Let's call it 31 billion. So 31 billion for 2025 is the total GGR number for Macau. Biggest in the world by far, daylight second. And some 84 point something percent, if my memory serves me correctly, of the 2019 number. People make a lot of that. I wish they wouldn't make so much of that, because really you're comparing apples with oranges, because that 2019 number was in the junket era with a lot of low margin revenue. And in fact, the gross profit, never mind the net profit, possibly higher with this 31 billion than it was with the 39 billion back in 2019. Thoughts on that, Ben?
Yeah, Andrew, well, I agree with all of that. A very strong result for Macau. That all came sort of the first half of the year in 2025 was a little slow, but we saw a surge from May onwards. December, a little bit slow on seasonality and very, very low VIP hold, but from all reports, that's already recovered in early January. Reports are that the holiday period was particularly strong, 1st to 4th of January. So into 2026 we come, and expectations are pretty high as well.
My computer's getting incredibly hot. If I suddenly disappear and my computer switches itself off, just hold the fort and I'll rush inside and try to. It's much cooler in there, and I'll restart. So let's. These such are the foibles of live television, which basically is what we're doing here. All right, let's move on to the next one, Oscar. Yeah, so this continuation. So we had 30.9 billion or 31 billion, and then there's the forecast from. Is this from Seaport? I think it was from Vitaly at Seaport, wasn't it? 6% higher.
Seaport,
he's saying.
JP Morgan. Pretty general consensus around the analysts of growth of around 6%, roughly 5, 6, 7% in 2026. I note that JP Morgan says that profit should exceed GGR growth in 2026, which it did not in 2025. So I guess streamlining a little bit by the concessionaires, slightly lower operating or CapEx.
So I didn't quite understand. Your profit growth will be higher than revenue growth. Is that what they were saying?
Yes.
Right.
Which it was not previously. So profit starting to really show its head, which is a great thing for the operators as well.
So 6% is 1.9 billion. I just worked out in my head. So 30 plus 9 plus 1.9 makes 32.8. So they're saying 32.8. Let's call it 33. Seems kind of subdued. I think we could do even better than that if China lets us. So let's see how things pan out. All right, let's move on. Next one. Yeah, this was interesting over the break. Perhaps you looked at this in some depth, Ben. Why don't you talk us through this one? PAGCOR, never sitting idle. PAGCOR always doing something at the moment.
Yeah, a bit to unpack here. So, well, first of all, this story was written after Arden Consult, and a shout out to Tonette out there, who are a very well known lawyer in the Philippines gaming industry. There, I wrote quite an extensive research paper delving into
good
this
friend
topic.
of IAG's, I think we call her at the moment.
Sure. So this all stems back to I wouldn't say it's an announcement by PAGCOR in the mid-December, but sort of a notice that was sent out by PAGCOR about this minimum guaranteed fee. And this basically puts a minimum guaranteed fee in place for licensed online operators that must be paid every month, regardless of whether they hit the minimum GGR threshold. The idea being that if you're a very small operator who's not really generating sufficient GGR, or if you're underreporting your GGR, you still have to pay this fee. So I think the idea from PAGCOR is not only to prevent people from underreporting or misreporting, it's also to weed out small operators who perhaps aren't really generating revenues sufficiently and may look to illicit means to generate the revenues they're not generating, they're not reporting. So, yeah, a little bit to unpack
I
there.
think it's a great idea. I think it's a great idea because it basically forces people to acknowledge that they will make a certain amount of revenue, and if they're genuinely not making that revenue, then the payment will hurt them, and certainly some consolidation will happen. And generally, we see in new and growing industries there is industry consolidation. A lot of people try to start business, and then some are more successful than others. There tends to be some consolidation. So I think a little bit of consolidation in the online industry in the Philippines would not be the world's worst thing.
I think you've spoken a bit, Andrew, about when you see an industry like the Philippines, eGames, the domestic online industry, explode like it has the past couple of years, that there comes a point when regulation catches up, really. So I think that's what's happening now, is that we've seen a few of the things that happened last year, the delinking of sites from e-wallets, tighter regulations, KYC, all that sort of thing. So I think this plays into all of that with PAGCOR going, right, what can we do? Let's start to bring this industry back into line, consolidate, stabilise. I think that's what we'll see in 2026.
And that's very important for the sustainability of the industry. Industry folks might say, oh, no, this is, we'll bring, take us back to the good old days where we were making heaps of money. Well, I'd rather make, just for argument's sake, 50% of X rather than X, but know that 50% of X is year after year after year in a sustainable, stable industry that isn't going to end in a year or two. And we've had a lot of instability in online gaming in the Philippines, let's be honest. And this is just a natural evolution of that, I think. And I think they'll get it right eventually. I mean, they've obviously shown intent to get it right. There was a stage there where there was talk about the president of the Philippines banning the eGames industry like they did the Pogo industry. Clearly, he doesn't want to do that because he would have done it by now. And they just want to kind of stabilize the industry and make it sustainable. So all credit to them for that. And I think that they're the only jurisdiction, with the possible exception of New Zealand, obviously they're going through a process at the moment as well, that have recognised the reality that people do want to bet online in Asia Pacific region.
Yeah, that's right. I think this is a sector we'll keep a close eye on this coming year. I think there's still going to be a lot happen in this segment. Very interesting to watch, and it will be right on top of it.
And for those of you who are not aware, keep an eye on our sister publication, Complete iGaming, which specifically covers the iGaming industry in Asia Pacific and the Americas, dedicated to iGaming. So go check that out, completeigaming.com. Same parent company as IAG and CDC Gaming in the US, for that matter. Go check that out. You can subscribe to Complete iGaming. We publish 6 stories every day. Comes out at 9 a.m. New York time. So that's what is that? That's 9 a.m. Macau time, except for when it's 10 a.m. Macau time because of the daylight saving. All right, let's move on to the next one. Yeah, Sri Lanka. Well, I actually am going to Sri Lanka later this month, so I'm really interested in this.
Yeah, Sri Lanka is the latest jurisdiction that's really been trying to clean up its act as well. Obviously, they've introduced a new bill last year that will sort of oversee the industry. They're creating a new regulator. They've upped casino levies, entry fees. Of course, Sri Lanka's long had a problem in collection of taxes and fees from their casinos, but with the industry starting to grow, of course, with Melco opening City of Dreams Sri Lanka, the first true integrated resort in Sri Lanka. So another jurisdiction that's looking to clean up its act and I guess formalise activities.
It was interesting. IAG had a cover on Sri Lanka when James Packer, I should say. James Packer was interested in opening a property in Sri Lanka. Well over 10 years ago, and we've been talking about Sri Lanka for years. Of course, Mr. Pereira there. And there's the other gentleman, Wicharatney, I think it is. They've been sort of fringe dwellers on the Power 50, haven't they, from year to year, sometimes sneaking into the 50, sometimes being in the next 5 are the ones to watch as the 2 sort of main guys in Sri Lanka. And you've got some Bally's and Bellagio there in Colombo, so the casino. So there has been a casino industry in Sri Lanka for quite some time. Our friend Suat from TechNet supplies them, and a few of our other IAG clients that supply the Sri Lankan gaming industry. But yes, as you see, the first true integrated resort with Lawrence Ho and Melco moving on in there, and I'll be going there later this month and doing some stories from there and taking a look at what they've got. I'll be very, very interested to see what they've got there in Sri Lanka, and it's good to see the government of Sri Lanka trying to, just as we were talking about in the Philippines, get things a bit more cleaned up, a bit more formalised. And companies want this. Companies in our industry, they want to be regulated. They want to have a stable regulatory environment to operate in, to say that they're clean and they're regulated and that they're following, the laws that relate to gaming in that jurisdiction. Anyway, all right, let's move on. What's next, Oscar? Yeah, we found out some more about MGM Osaka. Tell us about this one, Ben.
Well, I might need Oscar to zoom in to remind me of all the figures here that were in this story. But yeah, local media.
Yeah, there were a few numbers, wasn't there?
Yeah. So look, this was probably nothing groundbreaking. Some of this had been reported previously, but there's a little bit more detail about what MGM Osaka will look like. I think from memory, the main tower will be 27 stories high. There were some numbers around the casino. I think 6,000 slot positions, and I have to zoom in there, perhaps, Oscar, so I can recall how many gaming tables. But I think around 3 hotels, various other facilities. There we go, 27-story, 126-meter high main building. So just all of this starting to take shape there, Andrew. It's still a few years off, but looking forward to seeing it when it's all done.
Well, they keep saying 2030. I keep saying 2031. I hope they're right, not me. But 6,400 slot machines. That is a decent chunk of slot machines. Light and Wonder and Aristocrat and your IGTs of the world will be very interested in that. So that's interesting. And the 3 hotels, and at this stage, them getting a monopoly. The process was sort of somewhat fraught with problems, but ultimately MGM getting the monopoly there, they're going to do very, very well, unless and until they get some competition, which may happen with the Japan government. Now, we reported on that in December, now saying that they want to run another process for the other 2 integrated resort licenses available under the 2016 and 2018 enabling legislation for Japan. So we could have, and they were going to be running that in 2027. Wasn't it interesting that Hokkaido came out? It wasn't Hokkaido. It was Wakayama. Wakayama came out and said, "Oh, that's too quick for us. 2027." They couldn't get themselves organised in a year and a half to get an IR plan done. So that shows you how quickly people move in Japan.
Yeah, I think it also shows that MGM won't have any competition in Japan for quite a few years, even after opening, and even if these other 2 licenses are.
Yeah, sorry, I think I'm about to say what you were about to say. Even if these other 2 licenses emerge, they're probably not going to be big ones. They're going to be more regional properties rather than Osaka, right in the middle of the Kansai area there. That's a huge population base in that zone. So that their gravity models, their concentric circles with gravity models in their documents to analysts and so forth will be very nice indeed. And then there's Oscar zooming in on the current rendering of what it's going to look like. So I'm sure it'll look somewhat similar to that. And it'll be interesting. I'll certainly be there at the opening. All right, what's the next one, Oscar? It's getting sunny here. Boy, that sun is beating down. Yeah, we just cracked the 40 million in, I think on the last day or the second last day, we just crossed over 40 million visitor arrivals in 2025. Not that far behind Las Vegas at 45 million they usually run at. That's a hell of a lot of people, isn't it, coming to Macau?
Yeah, that's a massive number. I mean, I guess it sort of shows the disparity at the moment too between those visiting Macau and how that's translating to GGR. I mean, GGR is going along quite nicely, but obviously visitor numbers overall are just booming. So I think a lot of same-day visitors there, Andrew, as well.
Yeah, I mean, as we have mentioned in the past, a lot of what I call triangular visitation, visitation to Hong Kong and Macau, or Macau and Hong Kong, depending on the order that you go in. We're seeing a lot more of that these days compared to years gone past. We're seeing a lot more single day, day tripper only visitation, bringing the average stay in Macau back down from 1.2 days to 1.1 days. Unfortunately, we'd love that number to be higher, but people are seeing Macau as a one-day destination. Really, the average person seeing it as one-day destination. We have to do things in Macau to change that and to make more things, more attractions that will want to make people stay in Macau longer. That's Macau's big challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, look, hotel room supply, as you say, attraction. I mean, how much more can we go over 40 million stage? I mean, that's a massive number for somewhere that's 30 square kilometres. It's actually quite phenomenal. So, yeah, challenge.
Well, 100,000 a day is 36.5 million. We're at 40 million with 10% over that. So what are we talking? 110,000 a day. That means some days it's topping 200,000 on really busy days. So that is a ferocious. I mean, if you divide that by 24 and divide that by 60 and divide that by 60, how many people per second it is coming into Macau? It's an enormous number. Although border gate capacity is up, they built that second sort of border gate a few hundred meters to the west of the old border gate at Gong Bay, and also the Lotus Bridge border gate now becoming a lot more of a used border. People are actually coming across the Lotus Bridge directly into Cotai. So I think border gate capacity is not the problem. The problem is hotel rooms. We've only got just under 50,000 hotel rooms. It's a third of what Las Vegas, a little bit under a third actually of what Las Vegas has, and that necessarily pushes the prices up. The average price for a hotel room in Macau, I mean, I don't know the actual number off the top of my head, but cheap ones are going for 1,000, expensive ones are going for 3,000, and the average might be maybe 2,000, which is 250 US a night. And given that the average GDP per capita in China is about an eighth, I think it is a sixth or an eighth of what it is in the US. That is very, very expensive for the average person in China. Only rich people can afford that to stay overnight in Macau.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's move on. What's next, Oscar? Oh, this was my little intro story on day one. Perhaps you can talk through it a bit, Ben. I wrote it.
Well, I've got to remember what you wrote about, Andrew. So you probably got a recollection.
You probably just copy pasted it onto the website, didn't you?
Oh, I did read it.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll talk about it. Basically, it was just a welcome to 2026. It was on the 5th of January, our first day back, our first breakfast briefing, and it was just a bit of a welcome to the new year. And gave 3 bullet points on each of the top 4 jurisdictions in Asia Pacific of the things that we are looking out for. Macau was all about GGR and the non-gaming spend. Scroll down, Oscar. Remind me what the other 3 were. Philippines was about West Side. Obviously, West Side City will open this year. That's going to be really interesting. The first new major IR opening in Manila since Jakarta. Yeah, nearly 10 years ago. So that's going to be super interesting, and how Newport handles that. There'll be a lot of opinion and commentary on that. Han, of course, opening next month up there, opening Han Reserve, and how will the eGames industry go out? Australia, well, it's all about Star and Crown. What will happen with the new Star under Bally's and Bruce Matheson? How will Crown go? How will Crown consolidate? I actually met up with the CEO of Crown in the last few days, and also just the regulatory environment in Australia. Will it get a bit better? And then Singapore is all about the money that they're pouring. Both properties are pouring in to those properties. And then I went on to just tell the readers what to expect from us, what to expect from IAG this year. Breakfast briefing as usual, IAG magazine as usual, both to be improved in 2026. We're beefing up our editorial capacity this year. 6 MADs for the year, 3 in Macau, 3 in Manila. Our usual tip event at G2E Asia. The IAG Expo, we're going to ramp the exhibition up, particularly after our learnings from the first year last year. And of course, the awards and the summit will be returning. The 19th Power 50, our new Macau non-gaming product, that's becoming more and more important as non-gaming is becoming more important in Macau. Some new initiatives, and also a little bit of a slight edging together of CDC Gaming in the US and IAG in Macau just a little bit closer together while still keeping their identities separate. So that's what we've got planned for the year, and just thought I'd let the readers sort of in on our sort of plans for the year, and before we get cracking on implementing it all, which we're already underway with.
Yep, Andrew, big plans, lots to do. Well, I think we're quiet this time of year. Obviously, for us, is a little bit quieter. As the year gets on, it gets busier. It just gets progressively busier. But I noticed that this year we're into it straight away, planning. Lots to do.
Well, we say it's quieter. It's quieter in terms of the external delivery, but internally we're racing pretty hard to get ready for everything that's coming on the rest of the year. So particularly IAG Expo, putting a lot of work into that. Anyway, next one, Oscar. What's next? So we're into this week now, and just thought I'd pull this one out. I mean, we do this as a pretty regular story, but I just thought I'd pull this one out and mention that I'll be going to Korea for an extended trip this year. Quite interested in seeing what's happening up there. I think we should do some more reporting on Korea, so that's on the way. And they're actually doing quite well for foreigner-only casinos. Their numbers have been up. That's been a consistent trend over the last 12 months, hasn't it?
Well, this story is about Paradise, but I think we see a similar trend across the board, certainly with the listed companies that report their results. Grand Korea Leisure, Lot Tour that runs Jeju Dream Tower down there in Jeju, all reported strong growth. In fact, Jeju Dream Tower reported phenomenal growth in 2025. But I think it does show that when Korea is open and things are going well and there's no geopolitical tensions, then their foreign-only casinos do all right.
But they do have an existential crisis on the horizon with Japan coming. So they need to do something about that. And some of the people in Korea, some of the industry folks in Korea are using that as a catalyst to say, look, we need locals gaming. And they're right, because if they don't get locals gaming and Japan opens, Osaka opens, that's really going to hurt them. Really going to hurt them big time. So that will affect the economy in Korea.
Any other move too that we're seeing, Andrew, is a lot of these IR operators in Korea are recognising that MGM Osaka is taking the level of offering to a different level, and they need to up their game too. I mean, there's no reason they can't still attract Japanese players, but they better give them a good reason to come.
Absolutely, and if you look at what the offerings are, and obviously Macau is the gold standard, but even in the Philippines, it's a good offering and getting better. Singapore is an exceptional offering from Marina Bay Sands, and the Resorts World are trying to catch up with the money that they're investing. The Australian offering is actually if you go to Crown in Sydney, it's magnificent. So, I mean, there are some very, very good offerings around the region, and if you don't keep level with your competition, you're soon going to lag behind. So Korea needs to be very cognizant of that. All right, let's move on. What's next, Oscar? The NBA is back. Pierce will be happy about this.
Yeah, well, Pierce was pretty keen to write this story. I noticed when this was announced, he loves his NBA. I do too. I watch NBA most days. So this is great for Macau. We've seen the past few years this real focus and very successful focus on events in Macau. An area that probably was quite a decade ago. We saw a lot of MMA and boxing at the Venetian and that sort of thing. Now we're starting to see a lot of high-level concerts, more sporting events coming to Macau, probably led by the NBA. Of course, we saw the Nets and I can't remember the couple of teams play in October, just gone in Macau, very successful. And now we've got the Mavs and the Rockets playing the Texas Showdown this coming year. So I do note, Andrew, that the Mavericks are, of course, the franchise owned by none other than Patrick Dumont and the Adelson family. So no surprise to see them coming to Macau. You're just breaking up a bit there, Andrew. You're breaking up quite a bit there. Yeah. Yeah, Andrew, I'll jump in here because you're breaking up quite a bit, so very jumpy. I'll just continue on. I mean, as I was saying, that the NBA proved to be hugely successful for Sands when it was here in October. I think this will become a regular event on the calendar, actually. A lot of NBA fans in China, a lot of NBA fans in this region, very, very successful. So Obviously, Dallas Mavericks, owned by Patrick Dumont and the Ellison family. I noticed that the Houston Rockets, of course, are owned by the owner, one of the major shareholders of Wynn Resorts as well. So, a bit of a gaming connection aside from the fact that it's coming to Macau. So look forward to that. I'm sure Pierce will be at this game as well, as he was last year. Huge bonus for Macau. Look forward to seeing that. Maybe I'll even be in Macau in October. Who knows? All right, Oscar, let's jump on to the next story. Yeah, look, this is just an interesting story that really plays to how well Singapore is doing at the moment. Of course, we saw Marina Bay Sands reporting amazing record revenues, record EBITDA throughout 2025. And certainly Singapore remains a destination of choice for people across the region. Changi Airport, I'm sure, one of the most famous airports around the world too. Quite an interesting airport in its own right. But welcomes a record 70 million passengers in 2025. I think it was around about 67 million in 2024. So a bit of growth there. Oh, Andrew's popped inside. Have we got you, Andrew?
Yes. I think, can you hear me okay now?
I can. You might have been melting out there before.
I think the computer was, really overheating. So back inside where it's a bit cooler. Anyway, continue, Ben.
Yeah, look, I'm just talking about this story about Changi Airport, Andrew. A record 70 million passengers in 2025. And they're building Terminal 5, which is going to increase their capacity well over 100 million. I can't recall the exact number, but well over 100 million capacity. Singapore just booming.
That's incredible. I mean, what was the headline number there? 70 million, wasn't it? 70 million they got in. 70 million. So it's only 365 days in a year. So is that 200,000 a day? It is. It's 200,000 a day would be 73 million. So 200,000 a day. Wow. But that's obviously through the airport. I guess a fair bit of that would be just stopover traffic. But nevertheless, I mean, even if only a relatively small percentage of those took the time to go into Singapore, isn't that great for their economy?
Yeah, I mean, as you know, Singapore's a major transit hub, so I'm sure that plenty of those people like myself and yourself sometimes, Andrew, through transiting through Changi. But yeah, I mean, it's a great number. I mean, the thing about Changi Airport is that it's such an easy airport to navigate. The processes, whether you're going in and out of customs, is very fast these days, mostly automated. So doing a great job there. And of course, if you do go into Singapore, you get to go to Marina Bay Sands or Resorts World Sentosa.
Well, a couple of points I was going to make. Changi often voted the best airport in the world, which is what a claim to fame. And second thing is, if you do have a few hours, a lot of people fly through Singapore between Australia and Europe. And, people don't mind giving themselves a long layover to stretch their legs, and because it is a very long way to fly from Australia to Europe. And if they do decide, Changi Airport is quite close to the city, to the centre of the city. It's only about, I guess, a 20-minute drive with no traffic. And usually there isn't too much traffic on that drive to MBS. And if there is only one thing you're going to do while you're in Singapore, it's probably go to MBS. So, that's great for MBS, isn't it?
Yeah, terrific. I think Singapore Airlines as well is often voted among the top airlines in the world as well. I think it came in number 2.
One of.
Yeah.
I mean, Singapore, Cathay, and then the Middle Eastern airlines, Etihad, Emirates, and the Doha one. Qatar, thank you. Qatar, yes, that's correct. Yes, Abu Dhabi is Etihad and Dubai is Emirates. Very good. All right, let's move on. What's next, Oscar? Vitaly always talking Macau up.
I sort of referred to this earlier, Andrew, when we were talking about GGR. But yeah, Vitaly saying that the start of this year, specifically January 1 to 4, the early holiday period, looking pretty strong, making amends for a sluggish December, with GGR at around about 850 million mop per day. So decent start to the year.
Yeah, I just tapped that on my phone and comes out to be 38.7 billion US for the year. So if it was a straight line at that number for the whole year, which it may not, but we're definitely looking at a number beginning with a 3 for 2026 in terms of US dollars, billions, tens of billions for the year. So whether that's 30, 31, or 39. I think we're looking at a number beginning with a 3, which is great for the 6 concessionaires, and it's great for Macau too. You know, puts a lot of money into the economy, a lot of tax to the government, and pushes the salaries up for the workers in Macau. It's all nothing not to like there. All right, let's move on. What's next, Oscar? I think we must be getting close to the end. We are getting close to the end. We are at the end, it appears. Well, I thought I might be able to hang out to the end out in that heat, but it was just sweltering out there. I don't know. They say it's 38 today. It feels hotter than that to me. So, Ben, what are your thoughts for the year ahead? I gave my thoughts on the 5th of January story. What do you think about the year ahead? You got any comments about what's happened so far, or what happened during the break, or what you think might transpire in the year ahead?
Well, look, I guess it's a case of what will I be keeping my eye on. Well, that's a big question. There's lots of things I'll be keeping my eye on, but being here in Sydney, having grown up in Sydney, I guess I'll be keeping a very close eye on Star. We'll be very keen to see how that plays out. Now that Bally's losing my voice now, Andrew. Now that Bally's is in charge, Stu Kim is of course chairman now of Star, so they'll build out that board. They will implement their own controls over Star more and more. So I look forward to seeing how that plays out over the coming months.
Yeah, and Steve McCann leaving was obviously a surprise. It was pretty clear that they weren't expecting that. So I don't know the story behind that. And even if I did, I probably wouldn't say. But Steve McCann suddenly leaving, I guess, well, I suppose change of control was probably in his comment. I'm just pure speculation here. I don't know. But I guess a change of control clause was in his contract, that his contract would be paid out in full if there was a change of control. There was a change of control. Therefore, if you can get paid for doing your job without doing your job, it's better than getting paid for doing your job or doing your job. So I guess maybe, I'm purely speculating. I don't know that that's what happened. It's just speculation, but it would kind of make sense. And you would think under this new regime, under Sue Kim and Bruce Matheson, that they would be wanting to ring the changes, because let's face it, Star hasn't been going well the last few years. Your shares are up from 11 cents to, would they go up to 14 or something?
About 14 cents, Andrew. So yeah, I'm rich. I can retire soon. I look forward to that.
Oh. I wouldn't be retiring on that 3 cents.
No.
Yeah. But look, I think that's going to be really super interesting, because Crown's EBIT's a positive. I'm saying Crown's profitable. It's let's be honest, it's EBIT's a positive, which is not net profit positive. I've still got a pretty severe interest bill, I'm sure. But at least they're EBIT positive, and that's a step in the right direction. And things, I think you can sort of, in Australia, you can kind of feel a little bit of a calming down of this hysteria. There's not so many stories in the paper of casinos are bad and all of that sort of stuff, so it seems to be calming down. You can only maintain that stuff for so long, and I think the interest of the public and the politicians moves on to something else. So hopefully the casino industry can settle down a little bit here in Australia in 2026.
Yeah, that's right, Andrew. So I guess as I look across the region, I think Macau is going to just be a steady growth story. Singapore in the midst of its expansion. Japan is doing its thing while we wait for MGM Osaka to open. I think the Philippines will be very interesting this year, both in land-based and online. A lot to play out there. Obviously, PAGCOR, in the midst of overhauling its regulatory regime, and of course, privatization of casino Filipino properties. So I think we'll see a lot more action there and in the online sector. So that's probably the things I'm keeping my eye on.
Yep. I agree wholeheartedly. All right. Well, look, anybody, we're going to be having regular guests on IAG live now. So if there's anybody watching this now or watching it after the event, which a lot of people do, and you're a senior executive in the industry, and you'd like to be interviewed by us, or you'll just have a chat with us on IAG Live on a Friday, please do reach out to us. And we're also lining up, as you say, we've got some guests lined up for the time ahead, and we'll be doing a few little different things on IAG Live this year. It's something that's that only we are doing, and I think it's good for us to give our take on the industry as things happen. It's important to have somebody commentating as a honest broker on the industry and commentating on what's going on, because it's an incredibly interesting industry, and this is going to be a really interesting year. I think those things that you mentioned there, Ben, are going to be things to watch as the year rolls out. So I think that's it for us for this week, and thank you all for watching, and we'll see you on IAG Live next Friday, the 16th of January. Well, only 11 months to go till Christmas. 11 months and 1 week to go to Christmas it'll be by next week.
Can't wait.
The year is rolling out already. Okay, have a great weekend, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.